Welcome to the Book Club Life. I'm your host, Jenny Snow, and today I have with me Christina Suzann Nelson, author of What Happens Next. I read this last summer around Mother's Day, actually. So it was, kind of a gut-wrenching read for Mother's Day, but it was really good, and I wanted to have her on to the show. And actually, my book club read it. They loved it. It had great discussion. So I just thought I would love to have her if she would come. And so thank you for being here, Christina.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into the book club questions and discussion about the book and life, would you tell us just a little bit about who you are and a little bit about the book, What Happens Next?
Okay. So I'm Christina Suzann Nelson. I am a mom of 6 kids that range from 28 to 10. Our family advocates for foster care and kids in care and families who are loving on those kids. And we live in Oregon in the Willamette Valley. It's beautiful there. It's beautiful here in Minnesota too.
We're here at the Mississippi River Readers Retreat. So
the Mississippi River
yes,
is right there.
It's that way, but we were dark. If we would show you the river, you wouldn't be able to see our faces. So we just went this way, and hopefully it doesn't rain on us. But anyway, so that's a little bit about you.
Yeah,
now, are all of your children biological, or do you have some adopted? Or
we have
both?
1 biological kid, and we've adopted 5.
Okay, wow, that is so cool. Trisha Goyer also has similar
Trisha and I get along
family.
really well.
Yes,
We're actually the same age too. We graduated the same year.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that. So, tell us the premise for the book.
So this is the story of what happened to Heather. And so Heather is a young girl in the summer of 1987. And during that summer, Faith is there. She's about the same age. And then there's a boy that hangs out with them too. And at the end of the summer, Faith's family leaves. So she doesn't know that Heather has disappeared. But
right.
Years later, she finds this out when she's struggling with her own grief over some losses in her life. So she goes back to try to uncover, because she's a podcaster now, she goes to uncover what happened to Heather.
And her podcast is called What Happens Next, which I thought was a really cool tie-in. And so missing persons, she's going to go see if she can help this family and discover what happened to her best friend from the summer of 1987.
Yes, 1987. Okay. So
Okay,
it's full of all that great 80s stuff.
Yes. I totally felt like I was back in the 80s reading it. And I was just a little kid in the 80s. But yeah, all like the ice pops and the summer and the 4th of July fireworks, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a page turner. I'm going to go ahead and start with, I just made some notes because I knew I was going to, that my book club is going to vote on this. So when I do a book club, I bring 3 books usually, and then we just vote on it. So it's not like I'm the only one choosing. We all have say. So this is one that I brought, and everybody chose this one. And so this was a contemplative read, but also a page turner, if you can imagine that at the same time. Like you have to know what happens next. So it was really good. It has hope, but it also has some really tough issues. So let's dive right into the book club questions. So Faith, who is the podcaster, she feels betrayed that her parents never told her that Heather went missing. And she felt totally betrayed. And so the quote is, "It would be a betrayal to keep that kind of information from them." That's what she felt. And so I just want to ask you, would you have told? And then how do you handle difficult truths with your kids? Do you just tell them the truth flat out somewhere? How do you handle that kind of stuff?
Okay, so Faith's family was going through a lot when they made that decision, when her parents made that decision not to tell her. I can't really put myself exactly in that spot and say, would I do the same thing? I do know that with my kids, there's been hard things that have come up, and we tend to be very, very honest with our kids. I think just about any tough thing can be explained at an age appropriate level. So that would be my way of handling it. If, for instance, one of my kids' friends was missing, I would tell them right away.
Yeah, same. I'm a very honest person, actually. So my philosophy is I tell the truth about everything, even some society, I guess you could call it traditions or games. I just explain it that, well, that's a game people play, and I'm going to tell you the truth, and then you let their parents decide what they're going to tell them. Yes. And that's not a hard truth necessarily, although it can be if you get so old that, whoops, everybody else knew but you. I saw that happen to somebody, and I was like, oh. But even with difficult truths, just what happens, what happens to people, we are very truthful as well in an age appropriate way. And just, I think if you take the time to explain, and since we do have hope in Christ and we, have someone to go to for help, that helps as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that summer of Faith's life totally shaped her. It impacted the woman that she became. So what childhood event shaped you and impacted the woman that you became?
There were quite a few. A couple that had acted as foster parents to my mother in high school, they chose to be my grandparents when I was born. So just so many things with them. They really had a huge impact on my life. When I was in
a positive impact.
Yeah, very, very positive. Awesome. When I was in middle school, I was moved to my dad's house, which was really great. But when my stepsister and I started our freshman year of high school, our brother passed away. He had been sick his whole short life with Gaucher's disease. So I would say that definitely had an impact on my life. I had to then move back in with my mother, but also just, experiencing a grief that you shouldn't have to experience.
Yeah.
It made me more aware of other people and the struggles that they go through.
They may be going through something. Just because you're doing good, that doesn't mean that everybody else is. And so to be sensitive to that, that's good. Okay. This is different, but I liked this quote and I thought it would be great for book clubs. I just love connecting questions where you connect with the book, but also with each other. So here's a quote from this story. This is Faith and Dora. They're going to grief share. And that's a whole story in itself, but you'll have to read the book. But somebody says, everyone had a story, and maybe everyone needed a little help toward healing. So what is your story? Who is Christina? The geese are flying across the river right now, if you hear the
oh, wow.
honking.
Okay, so that was really distracting, but really cool.
Yes.
So I am a kid who grew up in some really hard circumstances. But I am a person who had adults step in who loved me and made a difference. So I think I've become a woman who's very different than would have been expected if you knew some of those childhood experiences. So, so as an adult, having children, one of the things that I've really wanted was to just change that.
To change someone else's trajectory.
And to turn that corner in our family so that my kids aren't experiencing trauma. Now, granted, we adopted a bunch of our kids from foster care. They've experienced some trauma, but we're working on healing those wounds and helping them to see the joy in things. And so I hope that I am somebody who can step in or steps in and help somebody else's life to have a positive.
Yeah. Someone impacted you, so you're the type that wants to impact someone else. And I can do the same for someone else.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
I'm sure you're not perfect at it, but I'm sure you're making a very big difference.
My kids are watching this. They're
like, oh, I can tell you some stories.
You should see the laundry pile. I'm pretty sure the laundry pile is dramatic.
Yeah. Climb every mountain. That's what I think of when I think of laundry. Okay. So here's a quote that does not necessarily have anything to do with anything other than I just really liked it. So Faith is a podcaster and she says, people thought podcasting was easy. They'd be shocked to know each episode represented 30 hours of work. And I just want to say, yes, it is harder than it looks. I don't know if I would go 30 hours, but it's really hard. For me, the hardest part of podcasting or interviewing is doing the book and the person justice. Like even just after it's already been recorded and we're going to put it out there, like describing what's coming, I'm like, it's amazing. This person is amazing. This book is amazing. Now, how can I put words to explain that? And plus all the background, search engine optimization stuff. But I appreciated that line in there as someone who does podcasting and interviews. Okay. Something I loved in the grief class that I thought everybody could do, whether you're in grief class or not, is the concept of celebrating small accomplishments. And I think it's so important to do that instead of just flying by next thing, is to celebrate when you do have a small accomplishment or a small win. So what is a accomplishment that you could share? It can be very small. And then I would also like to invite you guys to share one in the comments. What's an accomplishment that we can celebrate with you?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm always thinking of my kids. I'm going to be a grandmother in 3 weeks.
Oh, congratulations.
I make everyone hear about that.
That's so exciting. I didn't know that.
That's not really my accomplishment. That kind of feels like my big thing right now.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So growing up with my grandparents being so important to me, my grandma was like my best friend, and I feel like I've been waiting for this grandbaby since I was 5.
Can you tell us if it's a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
Does she have a name yet?
She doesn't, but we call her Skeeter.
Skeeter. Oh, adorable.
Anyway,
Okay.
I don't know if that's really a good answer to that. That's what's on my heart right now.
Yes.
So.
That's a huge accomplishment for is it your daughter or your son?
My son, my second son.
And, okay.
Yeah, there you go. I raised the boy to the point where he gave me a grandbaby.
That's awesome. Okay, this is a hard question because I was like, what's mine? Mine is just getting here. I did kids camp one day, and then the next day I flew up here to Mississippi River Readers Retreat. So that's my accomplishment, although definitely doing it with prayer. And but awesome. Okay. My next question is, this is a quote that Heather's dad says to the girls, especially to Faith. He says, a lot of times in life, it will feel like you're all alone and what's happening around you isn't fair. And sometimes it really won't be fair. But if we trust in God, if we live our lives in service to Him because we trust our lives to Him, we can be confident that He will make even the hardest times produce good. And so I just wanted to ask you, how have you seen that play out in your life? And do you agree with that? And how have you seen God take a hard thing and make good out of it? Even though the hard thing is still hard and maybe not good, but He brought good out of it.
Well, I've seen that so many times, it's hard to even pick one. And I do thoroughly believe in that line. I think that is an example of someone speaking into someone else's life. And he's really, he's talking to both the girls, but he's embedding that in Faith. Mm-hmm. And that's something that she'll carry with her for the rest of her life. And you'll see that in the story that she carries that. There's been incredibly hard things. Even just last fall, my husband had a 4-wheeler accident that should have taken his life or at least paralyzed him. Mm. And it was really scary. And we're in the ICU and just not knowing what's happening. And it's just, but my kids, they stepped up, and seeing how my kids stepped up, I could see how blessed we were at the same time. And
So you'll just, the drawing close part was just the beautiful blessing in it.
Yeah. And, you know, we have these friends that their faith is strong, and they spoke into our lives as we were going through that. I had major surgery like 2 weeks after this accident. So we were a mess. Our oldest son and his wife moved in with us for 2 weeks to take care of us.
Good.
Not that old, really. But so it was just, I think that sometimes the humility, you know, having to be humbled to accept someone else caring for you is such a huge blessing. And it's one of those things that in the midst of something absolutely horrible, you can feel that comfort. Yeah. That God's providing it through the people that are around you, and that, you know, it's not necessarily easy to accept, but
it's still life-giving and beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a really good story. Okay, so we're going to move into some rapid fire questions, our quick round. But if you're enjoying the show, would you give us a like on YouTube and consider subscribing to the show? And if you're listening to the podcast, I'd love it if you would take the time to leave a review, or maybe tell a friend about it. I would love to spread the word. So, okay, rapid fire. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner. I never eat breakfast.
Because
why do I say
that?
Eat breakfast? Well, I mean, I have coffee.
Okay.
But I usually forget to have breakfast.
Okay. I'm breakfast. I'm actually all of them. I need my meals. I need to keep going. Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay. How do you take it?
With cream.
Okay. An author I love is blank because blank.
Susie Finkbeiner, because she makes me laugh and think.
Okay. I haven't read her yet.
Oh, she's wonderful. Her new book, The All-Americans.
It looks
wonderful.
Really good. It looks really
Bright red
good.
book. Get it.
Okay. Writing advice for the aspiring author.
Keep writing. Don't give up. It's really a matter of persistence.
Okay. All right. We will stop there. Thank you so much, Christina, for being on the show. And you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Get this book. I did it on Audible. I loved it, but it really doesn't matter either way. It was so good. Such a page turner, and so many deeper things that I'm not going to get into because I don't want to spoil the book. So enjoy.